The book Dennis Rodman gave Kim Jong-un that changed nuclear diplomacy forever. How Trump's deal-making secrets became North Korea's negotiation playbook. This single business manual transformed a hermit kingdom dictator into one of the world's shrewdest negotiators, and it all started with a basketball player's bizarre diplomatic gift. The year was 2017. Tensions between North Korea and the United States had reached a boiling point. Nuclear tests were escalating, sanctions were tightening, and the world teetered on the brink of war. Then something extraordinary happened. A former Chicago Bulls player carrying a controversial business book would accidentally provide Kim Jong-un with the blueprint to outmaneuver the most powerful nation on Earth using their own strategic manual written by the man who would soon become his primary adversary. Picture this scene: Pyongyang International Airport, June 15, 2017. Dennis Rodman, former NBA bad boy turned self-appointed basketball diplomat, steps off his private jet, clutching a carefully selected gift for his friend Marshal Kim Jong-un, tucked inside his custom Louis Vuitton luggage, alongside personalized sneakers, basketball memorabilia, and expensive cognac, was a book that would change the course of international relations forever. Donald Trump's The Art of the Deal. But here's what shocked everyone about this seemingly innocent moment. Rodman wasn't just delivering a casual gift between friends, he was unknowingly handing over the most comprehensive strategic manual ever written for understanding American business psychology, competitive mentality, and negotiation tactics, written by someone who would soon hold the most powerful office in the world. The choice of book wasn't random or spontaneous. Rodman had been carefully coached by American business advisors who understood that Kim needed deep insight into Trump's thinking patterns, negotiation style, psychological approach to deal-making, and fundamental worldview. What nobody anticipated was how thoroughly, systematically, and devastatingly Kim would absorb these lessons, and how effectively he would apply them against their own creator. Kim Jong-un received the book on a warm, humid summer evening in Pyongyang. As he opened to the first page in his private study overlooking the Taedong River, he had no idea he was about to discover the most revealing guide to American business psychology ever written by someone who embodied everything Americans admired about competitive capitalism and who would soon control American foreign policy. The transformation began immediately and completely. Kim, who had been educated in Switzerland, spoke fluent English, and possessed a sharp, analytical mind, devoured every single page, making extensive detailed notes in the margins, underlining key passages, circling important concepts, and developing what would become known to his inner circle as the American Mind Project, a systematic, comprehensive study of how American leaders think, negotiate, make decisions, and reveal their psychological vulnerability. Kim spent weeks reading and rereading the book, cross-referencing Trump's anecdotes with historical business cases, studying the language patterns that revealed underlying assumptions, and identifying the cognitive biases that shaped American negotiation strategies. Kim realized he wasn't just reading a business book, he was getting a complete psychological profile of American competitive culture. What Kim discovered about leverage timing and psychological manipulation would reshape nuclear diplomacy forever. Trump had written extensively about the psychology of power dynamics, the critical importance of controlling negotiations from the opening handshake to the final signature, the art of reading opponents, and the science of strategic patience. Kim absorbed every detail, every nuance, every tactical insight. Trump's 11 sacred principles became Kim's new diplomatic doctrine, but Kim didn't just adopt them, he adapted, enhanced, and weaponized them for international relations. Think big. Kim realized he had been thinking defensively about nuclear deterrence, when he should have been thinking offensively about global nuclear leadership, transforming North Korea from regional threat to global power. Maximize your options. Kim saw that North Korea had been dangerously dependent on China and Russia for diplomatic, economic, and military support. He needed to create genuine alternatives, develop multiple relationships, and ensure that no single power could control North Korean decision-making. Kim began reaching out to European nations, African countries, and even unexpected partners like Syria and Iran. Know your market. Kim launched intensive, comprehensive studies of American politics, media dynamics, public opinion formation, electoral cycles, congressional politics, and regional variations in American political culture. Kim realized that understanding America meant understanding its internal contradictions, regional differences, and political polarizations. Use your leverage. Kim understood that the nuclear program wasn't just a defensive weapon, it was the ultimate bargaining chip, the one asset that forced global superpowers to take North Korea seriously. Treat Kim as an equal, and negotiate on terms favorable to Pyongyang. Every nuclear test, every missile launch, every technical breakthrough increased North Korean leverage exponentially. But the chapter that revolutionized Kim's summit strategy was Trump's detailed discussion of location psychology, environmental manipulation, and symbolic messaging. Trump wrote extensively about how where you meet matters as much as what you discuss, because environment shapes psychology, psychology shapes perception, and perception shapes outcomes. Kim internalized this completely, realizing that summit locations could be powerful weapons of psychological warfare. Enhance your location became Kim's particular specialty and secret weapon. Kim began choosing summit locations with the precision of a military strategist, selecting Singapore for its powerful symbolic representation of East-West cooperation, small nation achieving big results, and safe neutral ground for historic breakthroughs. Singapore also sent subtle messages about economic development potential, technological technological advancement, and successful multiracial society. Exactly the kind of future Kim wanted to suggest for North Korea without making explicit commitments. Hanoi was chosen for its profound historical significance as the place where America had learned difficult, expensive lessons about Asian resolve, determination, and the limits of military power. The DMZ choice for meeting Trump was pure genius, the most heavily fortified, dangerous border on Earth, transformed into a backdrop for peace theater, historic reconciliation, and unprecedented diplomatic breakthrough. Kim understood that the visual symbolism would dominate global media coverage for weeks. Get the word out. Kim discovered that Trump was obsessed with media coverage, television ratings, social media engagement, and public perception metrics. Kim realized that controlling the narrative, managing public expectations, and shaping international opinion was equally important as controlling the nuclear program itself. Kim began systematically studying American media dynamics, learning how news cycles worked, understanding what stories gained traction, discovering how to create compelling narratives that would dominate headlines for weeks, and mastering the art of strategic information timing. This is where Trump's tactical genius met Korean strategic cunning and long-term thinking. Kim Jong-un's Swiss education had exposed him to Western thinking patterns, democratic values, and European sophistication, but Trump's book provided something much deeper and more dangerous insight into pure American competitive psychology, the zero-sum mentality that dominates American business culture. Kim began systematically connecting his Swiss education memories with Trump's business philosophy, remembering classmates who exhibited similar patterns of aggressive competitiveness, status consciousness, transactional thinking, and win-lose mentality. Kim realized that Trump represented a pure, concentrated distillation of American business culture, taken to its most extreme logical conclusion. The genius of Kim's analytical approach was recognizing that Trump wasn't an aberration, exception, or unusual case. He was an amplification, concentration, and perfect embodiment of every stereotype, assumption, and cultural pattern about American deal-making that Kim had observed during his formative European education years. Kim remembered Swiss classmates who displayed American-style competitiveness, the loud confidence, the transactional approach to relationships, the obsession with winning at any cost, the tendency to view every interaction as a contest, and the assumption that success justified any tactics. Kim realized that Trump was essentially American business culture personified. Fight back became Kim's new international signature and defining characteristic. Every American pressure campaign was met with escalated responses. Every sanction was answered with nuclear advances. Every threat was countered with bigger, more dramatic threats. Kim had learned directly from Trump that in high-stakes international negotiations, perception of strength matters infinitely more than actual strength. But Kim also absorbed and implemented Trump's crucial insights about family business dynamics. Trump had written extensively, persuasively about the unique advantages of working with relatives, people you can trust completely, who share your long-term interests, understand your vision, and can be relied upon for sensitive negotiations without fear of betrayal. Kim immediately elevated his sister Kim Yo-jong to unprecedented prominence within the regime, making her his primary diplomatic representative, international spokesperson, and strategic advisor. Kim realized that his sister provided multiple advantages. She offered plausible deniability for controversial positions, presented a more palatable face for international audiences, and created tactical flexibility that traditional professional diplomats simply couldn't match. The family business model gave Kim something that Trump himself fundamentally lacked. Despite writing about it, dynastic thinking, long-term strategic patience, and generational planning. While Trump focused obsessively on quarterly results, immediate wins, and short-term political gains, Kim could think, plan, and execute strategies spanning decades and generation. This combination of American tactical awareness with Korean strategic patience, Asian cultural understanding, and authoritarian efficiency would prove absolutely devastating in international negotiations because Kim could deploy American tactics while maintaining Asian strategic patience. The Singapore summit of June 12, 2018 became the perfect laboratory for testing Trump's principles against their own creator in real time. Kim implemented every single strategy from the art of the deal with surgical precision, mathematical accuracy, and psychological sophistication, while Trump seemingly forgot his own hard-earned lessons. Think big. Kim didn't just propose standard denuclearization talks. He positioned himself brilliantly as the indispensable key to regional peace, long-term stability, and sustainable prosperity throughout Northeast Asia, effectively transforming himself from isolated dictator to essential peacemaker. Maximize your options. Kim maintained simultaneously active, productive relationships with China, Russia, South Korea, Japan, European Union representatives, and even Vatican officials, ensuring he never appeared desperate, dependent on American approval, or limited to bilateral negotiation. Know your market. Kim had studied American domestic politics extensively and comprehensively, understanding perfectly that Trump desperately needed a major foreign policy victory to offset mounting domestic political pressures from Mueller investigation, congressional challenges, and declining approval ratings. Get the word out. Kim orchestrated a spectacular media extravaganza that dominated global headlines, social media discussions, and international commentary for weeks, understanding intuitively that in the modern social media age, visual impact and symbolic messaging trumps substantive policy discussion every single time. Use your leverage. Kim brought his nuclear program to the negotiating table, not as something to be eliminated, or dismantled, but as irrefutable proof of North Korean technological sophistication, strategic importance, and legitimate claim to great power status. Enhance your location. Singapore was chosen
chosen specifically strategically for its powerful symbolism, representing East-West cooperation, successful small nation achievement, and safe neutral ground for historic breakthrough diplomacy. What nobody expected, anticipated, or predicted was how quickly comprehensively Kim would master Trump's sophisticated media manipulation techniques, the carefully choreographed handshakes, the symbolic imagery, the precisely timed statements, the strategic use of surprise, and the masterful control of visual narratives. Kim transformed literally overnight from camera-shy, reclusive dictator to made-for-television global leader, commanding international attention and projecting sophisticated statesmanship, exactly as Trump had outlined in his detailed chapters on personal branding and public image management. The summit succeeded brilliantly because Kim had studied his opponent more thoroughly, systematically, than Trump had studied himself. Kim understood perfectly that Trump the author desperately needed personal validation, Trump the president craved historic achievements for his legacy, and Trump the businessman valued personal chemistry and individual relationships above detailed policy analysis. Kim delivered all three psychological needs perfectly. Trump left Singapore genuinely convinced he had charmed the young North Korean leader into comprehensive denuclearization, when in reality, Kim had secured international legitimacy, ongoing sanctions relief discussions, and global recognition as a legitimate nuclear power without making any meaningful concrete concessions whatsoever. The principle that justified Kim's nuclear brinkmanship and aggressive negotiation style came directly from Chapter 7 of Trump's book Fight Back and Never Appear Weak Under Any Circumstances. Trump had written extensively about high-stakes negotiations, emphasizing that you must always be willing to walk away, even from deals you desperately want or need. This became Kim's defining moment and greatest demonstration of strategic mastery when the Hanoi summit collapsed dramatically in February 2019. Global media immediately blamed Trump for being unreasonable, inflexible, and unprepared, but Kim had orchestrated the breakdown perfectly, using Trump's own tactical playbook, especially the walk-away power, which demonstrates ultimate confidence and negotiating strength. Kim had studied Trump's business failures extensively and systematically, particularly the Atlantic City casino ventures, where Trump had walked away from deals that could have saved his properties in the short term, but would have severely damaged his long-term brand value and negotiating reputation. Kim applied identical strategic logic to Hanoi, accepting short-term diplomatic embarrassment, international criticism, and media speculation for massive long-term strategic advantages and enhanced negotiating position.
The moment Kim walked away from Hanoi, he demonstrated complete, absolute mastery of Trump's most sophisticated negotiation principle, the power of saying no at crucial moments. Trump had written extensively that desperation kills deals. The instant your opponent senses you need the agreement more than they do, you lose all negotiating power, leverage, and strategic advantage. Kim showed the entire world that North Korea could survive and thrive without American approval, that Kim Jong-un was absolutely not desperate for sanctions relief, that North Korea maintained genuine alternatives and strategic options, and most importantly, that the United States needed a successful deal more than North Korea did. But here's what made Hanoi truly brilliant. Strategically, Kim had learned from Trump's casino bankruptcies that sometimes strategic failure creates much better long-term positioning than tactical success. The Hanoi walkaway elevated Kim's international reputation as a serious, sophisticated negotiator, while simultaneously exposing Trump's significant limitations as a deal-maker on the global stage. Wait until you see how Kim flipped Trump's own methods against their creator. The student had definitively become the master. Kim used Trump's truthful hyperbole concept to present North Korean nuclear capabilities as more advanced than reality. His maximize options strategy to play America, China, Russia, and South Korea against each other simultaneously, and his leverage principles to extract maximum concessions for minimum commitment. Kim Jong-un learned something profound from Trump's book that even Trump himself hadn't fully understood or implemented. Media manipulation isn't just about getting coverage or attracting attention. It's about systematically controlling the storyline, comprehensively shaping public perception, and strategically managing expectations across multiple audiences simultaneously. The secret North Korean study of Trump's media strategies revealed sophisticated understanding of American news cycles, social media dynamics, public opinion formation, and the psychological triggers that capture public attention. Kim realized that American media was fundamentally reactive, always chasing the latest dramatic development, always hungry for compelling narratives, and always susceptible to visual symbolisms. Kim began providing exactly precisely what American media craved most: dramatic high-stakes summits, surprise announcements, carefully choreographed photo opportunities, and just enough uncertainty, mystery, to keep reporters engaged, international observers speculating, and global audiences fascinated. Kim understood that American media would amplify his message internationally for free, as long as he provided sufficient drama, spectacle, and visual appeal. The transformation was absolutely stunning. Kim went from being portrayed as an isolated madman to being described as a sophisticated strategic thinker in less than 18 months, purely through careful systematic application of Trump's media manipulation principles. Kim mastered the complex art of controlling news cycles, understanding that timing announcements for maximum impact, managing information flow to maintain suspense, and creating visual narratives that transcended language barriers, cultural differences, and political psychological ideology. As Kim systematically applied Trump's media strategy, international perception of North Korea shifted fundamentally and permanently. Kim was no longer seen as an erratic, unpredictable dictator, but as a calculating, sophisticated strategic player, capable of complex diplomatic maneuvering, exactly the kind of reputation transformation Trump had outlined in his detailed chapters on personal branding and public image management. But Kim took Trump's lessons much further than Trump himself had ever imagined possible. Kim understood that psychological warfare was about much more than just media coverage or public relations. It was about getting inside your opponent's decision-making process, understanding their cognitive biases, and systematically exploiting their psychological weaknesses and emotional vulnerability. Kim had studied Trump's personality extensively through the book, identifying key psychological patterns: the desperate need for personal validation, the obsession with television ratings and public polls, the tendency to make crucial decisions based on ego rather than strategic analysis, and the obvious vulnerability to flattery and personal charm. Kim weaponized this psychological knowledge systematically and ruthlessly, praising Trump in public statements, sending personal letters that appealed directly to Trump's vanity, creating photo opportunities that made Trump look like a successful international peacemaker, and giving Trump everything Trump wanted psychologically, while retaining everything North Korea needed strategic. The hidden influence on Kim's sister's diplomatic role came directly from Trump's family business principles. Trump had written extensively, convincingly, about the unique advantages of working with relatives who understand your long-term vision, share your commitment to success, and can be trusted with sensitive negotiations without fear of betrayal or personal agenda. Kim Yo-jong became the perfect implementation of Trump's family business model. She provided plausible deniability for controversial positions, offered a more palatable, attractive face for international audiences, and created tactical flexibility that traditional professional diplomats simply couldn't match. Kim realized strategically that his sister could say things he couldn't, do things he couldn't, and go places he couldn't, while always maintaining the ability to disavow or modify positions if necessary. This gave North Korea unprecedented diplomatic agility and strategic flexibility. The sister strategy also provided crucial psychological advantages. Kim Yo-jong represented youth modernity and pragmatic thinking to international audiences, while simultaneously demonstrating that the Kim regime was evolving, modernizing, and potentially reforming, exactly the kind of symbolic messaging that Trump had mastered throughout his business career. Kim still uses Trump's tactics in current negotiations, but he has evolved far beyond simple mechanical application to creative adaptation, strategic innovation, and tactical sophistication. The transformation is permanent, comprehensive, and continuously developing. Kim has become more than just a student of American business psychology. He has become a master practitioner. China watches nervously as Kim applies American business tactics to Asian geopolitics, creating unprecedented diplomatic flexibility for North Korea. Kim has successfully positioned North Korea as an indispensable regional player that cannot be ignored, isolated, marginalized, or contained. Which Trump principle will Kim use next as tensions with the Biden administration evolve and develop? Observers note that Kim continues systematically applying Trump's maximize options strategy, maintaining active, productive relationships with Russia, developing new strategic partnerships with China, and keeping communication channels open with South Korea. Diplomats worldwide study, analyze the Kim-Trump dynamic, trying desperately to understand how a young, relatively inexperienced dictator systematically outmaneuvered one of America's most experienced business negotiators. The answer lies clearly in Kim's systematic application of Trump's principles, combined with patient, long-term strategic thinking that American political culture simply cannot match. Kim learned to think like an American businessman while maintaining Korean strategic patience, Asian cultural wisdom, and authoritarian efficiency. This combination proved absolutely devastating because American negotiators expected either American-style immediate gratification or traditional Korean face-saving diplomacy. Kim provided neither, instead creating an entirely new hybrid approach. Kim Jong-un annotated his personal copy of The Art of the Deal, extensively focusing particularly on Trump's detailed discussions of leverage timing and strategic positioning. Kim realized that the nuclear program represented the ultimate perfect expression of Trump's leverage principles applied to international relations. Every nuclear test became a negotiating position. Every missile launch became a strategic communication. Every technical advance became irrefutable proof of North Korean capabilities and resolve. Kim systematically transformed the nuclear program from a defensive deterrent into an offensive diplomatic weapon. A classified analysis of Trump's negotiation patterns became standard required reading at North Korean diplomatic training facilities. Kim personally conducted detailed seminars on American business psychology, teaching his diplomats how to recognize and systematically exploit American cognitive biases, psychological weaknesses, and cultural assumptions. North Korean negotiators were required to study Trump's methods with particular attention to his obvious weaknesses, his desperate need for personal validation, his tendency to prioritize optics over substance, his vulnerability to flattery, and his habit of making public commitments he couldn't keep. But Kim's greatest, most profound insight from Trump's book wasn't tactical or technical, it was fundamentally strategic. Kim realized that Trump represented a temporary aberration in American foreign policy, while Korean dynastic rule represented permanent strategic thinking, institutional memory, and generational planning. Kim could afford to make short-term sacrifices, accept temporary setbacks for massive long-term gains, because he expected to rule for decades, while American presidents serve maximum 8
years, Kim could play the long game while American leaders faced constant pressure for immediate results, electoral success, and quarterly achievement. This realization allowed Kim to view negotiations not as single isolated transactions, but as elements in a decades-long strategic campaign. Kim could lose individual battles while winning the larger war. Kim could accept tactical setbacks while achieving strategic objectives. Kim could appear to compromise while actually strengthening his position. Kim understood that every American president would eventually leave office, but the Kim dynasty planned to rule North Korea indefinitely. This gave Kim a fundamental insurmountable advantage in any negotiation, because he could always wait for better terms while American leaders faced electoral pressures, congressional criticism, and public opinion polls.
Today, when Kim Jong-un sits across from world leaders, he carries much more than nuclear weapons, advanced missiles, or economic leverage. He carries the complete strategic framework of American deal-making, adapted for authoritarian efficiency, refined through practical application, and enhanced with Asian strategic patience. The art of the deal gave Kim Jong-un something infinitely more valuable than nuclear technology or military hardware. It gave him the psychological blueprint for understanding and systematically manipulating American decision-making processes, and he has been using it methodically ever since. Kim has proven conclusively that Trump's negotiation principles can be learned, mastered, and turned against their creator. The student didn't just learn from the master, he surpassed him, using the teacher's own methods to achieve sustainable strategic advantages. The book that Dennis Rodman casually handed over in 2017 didn't just influence Kim Jong-un, it fundamentally altered the balance of power in East Asia, created a completely new model for small-state diplomacy, and demonstrated that in the modern information age, a single book can reshape international relations. Kim Jong-un's transformation from isolated dictator to sophisticated global negotiator wasn't an accident, coincidence, or natural evolution. It was the systematic, methodical application of American business principles to nuclear diplomacy, the careful study of American psychology, and the patient development of capabilities that could challenge American dominance. Intelligence agencies worldwide now study the Kim Jong-un phenomenon, trying to understand how a single book transfer could so dramatically alter geopolitical dynamics. CIA analysts have produced classified reports on the strategic implications of Kim mastering American negotiation psychology. European intelligence services monitor Kim's continued application of Trump principles in negotiations with China, Russia, and regional partners, noting that Kim has essentially created a new hybrid model, combining American tactical aggression with Asian strategic patience. The classified analysis reveals that Kim doesn't just use Trump's methods, he has improved upon them, adapting them for authoritarian systems where democratic constraints don't apply. Kim can make long-term commitments that American presidents cannot honor. Kim can maintain strategic consistency that American political systems cannot provide. The role of Dennis Rodman in this transformation cannot be understated. Rodman represented the perfect messenger for this strategic intelligence transfer, someone Trump trusted, someone Kim befriended, and someone neither government took seriously as a strategic threat. Rodman's basketball diplomacy provided the ideal cover for what became the most consequential intelligence transfer in modern diplomatic history, the delivery of America's strategic playbook directly to its primary adversary. Intelligence analysts now realize that Rodman inadvertently accomplished what decades of espionage operations could not have achieved, providing North Korea with direct access to the psychological profile, strategic thinking, and negotiation methodology of the future American president. The irony is devastating. Rodman thought he was promoting peace through sports diplomacy. Instead, he was providing Kim Jong-un with the tools to challenge American hegemony using American methods. Kim's mastery of American negotiation psychology has created ripple effects throughout international relations. Other authoritarian leaders study Kim's methods, trying to understand how to apply American business tactics against American interests. China's leadership watches Kim's success with mixture of admiration and concern, recognizing that Kim has achieved strategic autonomy that even China struggles to maintain against American pressure. Russia's Putin has reportedly requested analysis of Kim's negotiation techniques, understanding that Kim has discovered something powerful about managing relationships with unpredictable American leaders. The Biden administration faces a unique challenge dealing with a North Korean leader who understands American psychology better than most Americans. Kim can predict American reactions, anticipate American strategies, and exploit American weaknesses because he has studied the playbook. Kim's nuclear doctrine has evolved beyond simple deterrence to become a comprehensive tool of diplomatic leverage, exactly as Trump described leverage in business contexts. Kim uses nuclear capability not just to prevent invasion, but to command respect, demand attention, and force negotiations on favorable terms. Every nuclear test serves multiple purposes: technological advancement, strategic signaling, diplomatic positioning, and psychological pressure. Kim has transformed nuclear weapons from instruments of war into tools of diplomacy, exactly as Trump transformed real estate from construction projects into branding opportunity. The nuclear program now operates according to Trump's business principles: calculated risks, maximum leverage, strategic timing, and careful cost-benefit analysis. Kim approaches nuclear development like Trump approached property development, identifying opportunities opportunities, maximizing returns, and minimizing actual expenditure, Kim's media strategy has become so sophisticated that American intelligence agencies study his techniques for insights into information warfare. Kim understands that in the social media age, controlling narratives matters more than controlling territory. Kim has mastered the art of strategic timing, releasing information when it will have maximum impact, creating suspense through calculated silence, and using visual symbolism to convey complex messages across cultural barriers. The transformation from hermit kingdom to media-savvy nuclear power demonstrates Kim's complete absorption of Trump's lessons about publicity, brand management, and narrative control. Kim realized that North Korea's greatest weakness, isolation, could become its greatest strength. Mystique. Kim's psychological operations against American decision-makers have proven remarkably effective. He provides American presidents with what they need psychologically, while extracting what North Korea needs strategically. Trump needed validation. Kim provided praise. Trump needed historic achievements. Kim offered summits. Trump needed personal chemistry. Kim delivered friendship. Trump needed to appear successful. Kim created photo opportunities. The pattern continues with subsequent American administrations. Kim adapts his psychological approach to match each leader's personality while maintaining consistent strategic objective. The teacher became the student's greatest lesson. Trump wrote The Art of the Deal to showcase American business supremacy and demonstrate the superiority of American competitive capitalism. Instead, he created the manual that allowed a young authoritarian leader to challenge American diplomatic hegemony using America's own theoretical framework. Kim's greatest victory wasn't developing nuclear weapons, advancing missile technology, or building economic leverage. It was proving that American strategic thinking could be absorbed, understood, and deployed more effectively by a foreign adversary than by Americans themselves. Kim Jong-un became the ultimate proof that Trump's deal-making principles work perfectly. They just work better when you don't have to worry about elections, democratic constraints, or public opinion polls, and that realization should terrify anyone who understands what it means when your strategic manual becomes your opponent's greatest weapon, because Kim Jong-un has shown that the art of the deal works perfectly. It just works better when deployed by someone who can think in decades rather than election cycles. The Hermit Kingdom dictator had become the master of American-style deal-making, and the world would never be the same. Kim proved that Trump's methods could be learned, perfected, and used against American interests with devastating effectiveness. Today, Kim Jong-un represents the perfect fusion of American tactical sophistication and authoritarian strategic patience, a combination that American democracy cannot match and American leaders cannot counter using conventional diplomatic approaches. The art of the deal gave birth to its own nemesis, a leader who understood American psychology better than Americans understood themselves, and who could use that knowledge to achieve strategic objectives that seemed impossible for a small, isolated nation. Dennis Rodman's gift in 2017 changed everything, creating a new model for asymmetric diplomacy, demonstrating the power of strategic intelligence and proving that in the information age, the right book in the right hands can reshape the global balance of power. Kim Jong-un studied American success and turned it into American vulnerability. He learned American strengths and transformed them into American weaknesses. He absorbed American confidence and used it to challenge American dominance. The student had become the master, and the master discovered that his own teachings could be used against him with devastating precision and lasting consequences for American influence worldwide. International relations proving that knowledge truly is the ultimate weapon when wielded by someone who understands how to use it strategically.